The screen is a dark city cut into tiny squares, every block a blinking light. You clock in as the night dispatcher, headset on, while heroes and ex-villains wait on the other end of the line for your voice. Somewhere out there, a bomb is ticking. Someone is stuck in traffic with a laser cannon. And your inbox still has 3 unread memos about shift performance. This is Dispatch, an 8-episode superhero workplace adventure from AdHoc Studio, released across a few late October and early November weeks on PC and PlayStation 5. You play as Robert Robertson, third-generation Mecha Man who loses his suit, his safety net, and most of his dignity before ending up in a fluorescent office at the Torrance branch of the Superhero Dispatch Network. Your new job is simple on paper: manage the Phoenix program's Z team of reformed villains and keep the city standing while you figure out who you are without armor. Mechanically, it is closer to interactive television than a traditional game. You pick dialogue, tap through quick time events, and juggle a dispatch dashboard where you assign heroes to calls and hope they come back in one piece. The performance is fine, the inputs are simple, and there is not much to say about frame times or control schemes beyond that. The real question is what this story does with your night. AdHoc built Dispatch as a season of television you steer. 8 episodes of superhero comedy and office drama where the focus sits firmly on writing, characters, and the kind of choices that bruise feelings more than they bend cities. Now let's head to your favorite bar, grab a drink, and join me for today's story about Dispatch and the messier kind of hero work. By the way, just so you know, spoiler warnings ahead.
He's got a special move. See ya.
The tone clicks into place the moment Robert crashes from heroic fantasy into office reality. One day, he is Mecha Man, getting his suit blown to pieces, trying to catch Shroud, the villain who killed his father. A few scenes later, he is hungover in a bar signing paperwork with Blonde Blazer to become a dispatcher for the Phoenix program, trading cape work for call center shifts and a mountain of debt he can barely see over. From the first morning at SDN, the writing leans hard into workplace comedy without losing sight of the people inside it. The mix of absurd and sincere is where Dispatch shines. Conversations overlap, running gags circle back at painful moments, and even throwaway side incidents pick up extra meaning when you remember who was in the room. Somewhere in those episodes, I caught myself thinking I almost forgot what good writing looked like because the game trusts people talking in cramped spaces to carry more weight than any slow-motion punch. The show structure helps. 8 episodes, each with its own little arc, give this season room to balance loud superhero action with the quiet grind of a job that never really ends. One week, it is a big blowout with the Red Ring. The next, it is a night where you and the team end up in a villain bar trying to forget that your lives are owned by a subscription service and a board of directors. Underneath the jokes, the script keeps circling a few simple ideas. Heroism as labor, not destiny. Redemption as a contract you sign with management, not a miracle. Mentorship as something you earn over many small choices instead of one big speech. Dispatch holds those threads together with more care than any quick summary gives it credit for. Sometimes the cape is just another kind of uniform. If you want to understand Dispatch, watch the night the Z team drags Robert out to drink at a bar full of villains. The clientele are people who used to rob banks and monologue on rooftops, now arguing about drink specials and parole conditions under neon lights. You sit with the team, you trade stories, and at some point you decide whether to admit you were Mecha Man or keep that story folded away for later. That scene is where the cast stops feeling like a roster and starts feeling like coworkers. Robert is not just the washed-up hero with a long-dead dad and a broken suit anymore. He is the new guy trying to earn respect from people he used to punch, a third-generation cape who never had powers of his own, now forced to be a hero through spreadsheets, call logs, and late-night phone calls. His journey across Season 1 is not about getting the suit back, it is about learning how to show up for people without hiding behind it. At the start, he is stubborn, self-pitying, and obsessed with rebuilding the Mecha Man armor with Royd in a back room so he can feel important again. Every loan he signed to maintain that suit is a weight on his chest, and every flashback tightens it a little more. As he stumbles through shifts and makes mistakes as a dispatcher, the game quietly nudges him toward a different kind of heroism, knowing when to trust a teammate and when to stop treating the Z team like assets on a balance sheet. When he talks to Invisigal about being a hero, he knows he's talking bullshit, but he wants to believe it himself because deep down he trusts her ability to become a better person. Blonde Blazer sits across from him as the ideal he used to chase. Publicly, she is the perfect superhero, the face of SDN's Los Angeles operation, flying across the city with an amulet that sculpts her into a blonde symbol who can punch through steel and shrug off toxins. Inside the office, she's the boss in the blazer, the one who rescues Robert from a street beating and offers him a job and a path to rebuilding Mecha Man, all while balancing shareholders, clients, and the politics of the Phoenix program. In private moments, you see Mandy rather than Blonde Blazer. You get late-night conversations in a not-so-empty office, quieter scenes on rooftops, or at the end of long shifts where the mask slips. Without the amulet, she becomes a brunette again, the perfect silhouette fading into a very human person who is tired, insecure, and desperate for someone to see the real her under the branding. She is the pinnacle of the perfect superhero, and she still looks for reassurance that someone will treasure the real her, not just the version that sells action figures. Invisigal, Courtney to the people who bothered to ask, is the other axis of the hero question. She is asthmatic, angry, and stuck at the bottom of the Z-Team hierarchy, a former villain whose power only works when she holds her breath and disappears. Robert is told to mentor her, which sounds noble until you realize how much of it is paperwork and performance reviews, and how often the adults around her see her as a project rather than a person. The mentor arc between them is one of the most uncomfortable and honest things in this season. She makes bad calls, ignores orders, and carries secrets big enough to break the team, including her past work for Shroud and her role in the bomb that ruined Robert's suit. You decide how often you give her the benefit of the doubt, whether you take her out of the firing line or keep throwing her into danger, and whether you talk to her like a kid you want to protect or a tool you need to sharpen. The endings she can reach make painful sense in that light. Then there's the rest of the Z team. Flambe, the fire slinger who used to be Robert's nemesis, now burns stress off in cheap jokes and bursts of flame. Yeah, I know, he's an asshole, but an asshole with an actual heart. Sonar, the Harvard Batman, with a relapse lurking behind every mission and a spot in Narcotics Anonymous where he keeps trying to do better. Coupe, the shadow-dancing ex-assassin. Prism, with her influencer smile and photokinesis. Golem, literally built from dirt and magic and still one of the gentlest presences in the room. Phenomoman, the alien golden boy on the posters, is quietly depressed and confused by human norms. Funnily enough, he could not be more different from the woman he loves, Blonde Blazer, yet he also could not be more similar. One of them craves understanding and love, the other craves peace and recognition. They are all broken in some way. Chase, his dad's old friend and now his mentor, burned his body down so fast that by 39, he looks 80. Now he sits at the desk next to Robert, a man whose joints ache with every movement, teaching dispatch tricks and trying to keep this new Mecha Man from making the same mistakes he used to make. Shroud, the big villain in the mask, is woven through all of this as less of a cartoon and more of a consequence. He was once part of the same heroic machine, a member of the Brave Brigade, before he turned that knowledge into something sharper and crueler. His predictive mask and cybernetics make him terrifying, but what stings is how well he understands the holes in SDN's systems and in Robert's armor. He is what happens when someone decides to use all that corporate logic for personal revenge. In the end, even heroes need someone to pick up the phone. With a cast this strong, it is easy to assume you are steering a wildly branching story. Dispatch certainly frames it that way. Episode 3 asks you to cut Sonar or Coupe, an ugly decision about which ex-villain loses their second chance. Episode 4 makes you pick a new recruit, either the exhausted legend Phenomoman or the insecure janitor Waterboy. You can spend off hours going on a date with Mandy or Courtney, turning professional tension into something messier. Later, after a botched astral pulse run and a hospital stay, you decide whether to keep Invisigal on the team or finally push her out. In the finale, you move through a storm of choices around Shroud, around how you treat the Red Ring, around who you stand beside in the last few rooms of the call center. In the moment, all of that feels huge. Each prompt looks like it should send Season 1 spinning off in a new direction. Once you have seen the credits a couple of times, the shape of the rails is clearer. No matter what, the Red Ring ends up defeated and arrested, the Torrance branch survives his assault, and the Z-Team gets held up as heroes in the news while the office starts repairs. If Robert kills Shroud, he gets suspended pending an investigation. If he spares him, he walks away without that mark, but the epilogue still hits most of the same beats. If you cut different members of the team, certain scenes shift. Some faces disappear from meetings, but the skeleton of the plot stays firm. The biggest variable sits around Invisigal and the mentor fantasy the game sells you. She can end Season 1 as a hero who takes a bullet for Robert and walks the hardest path toward redemption, or as someone who seizes Shroud's mask for herself, kills him, and walks away from the team as something closer to a villain. On paper, that sounds like a clean choice between trust and suspicion, kindness and control, and the game certainly frames it that way in the final episodes. Under the hood, it is trickier. Community digging found the hidden Robert mentor counter, a score that tracks how you have treated Invisigal across the season. Story choices, optional relationship moments, and how often you back her publicly only get you so far. The rest of that score comes from the dispatch side, from how well you do your job in the shift missions, how many times she succeeds or fails on calls, and how cleanly you handle the QTEs and hacking that sit on top of those runs. The game never explains any of this, so you can replay episodes 7 and 8, pick every supportive line, and still end up watching her kill Shroud if your earlier dispatch performance was shaky. Hearing that there was no glitch, that it was your job performance all along, is clever on a design level, and a little sour on a player level. The stone really is already carved, and you only learn later how many of your chisel marks were happening off camera. The result is a strange middle ground. Most choices decide how scenes feel rather than what rooms you visit. Who you date, who is in the background during crises, who gets the last word in an argument, those things shift. The spine of Season 1 does not. A few more points where the story actually bent instead of just flexed, and a clearer sense of how much the dispatch dashboard was steering that mentorship would have helped. Rails do not matter when the feelings still land. By the time the credits roll, the office is battered but open. The Red Ring is behind bars, and the Phoenix program has a very public success story tied to the Torrance branch. Season 1 closes in a way that feels complete enough to stand alone while still leaving room for a second run of episodes if AdHoc decides to bring everyone back for another year of late nights and bad coffee. In the end, the trade feels clear. The last stretch of Dispatch stumbles on pacing and keeps more control over the big beats than the choice marketing suggests, yet the writing, performances, and small human moments keep the whole season worth holding on to. This is a game that cares more about how people talk to each other than about how often you press a button, and when it leans into that, it can be quietly devastating. Somewhere between the blinking dispatch lights and the final exhausted shift, the answer settles in. Dispatch Season 1 is worth your night if you want to spend that night with flawed heroes in a cramped space, listening to them joke and fail and try again, knowing that your power here lives in how you treat them rather than how hard you swing. When the board finally goes quiet and the last call of the evening fades, you sit back from the monitor with the sense that this story did not rewrite the genre, but it did remember that capes and masks only matter when the people underneath them feel real. Sometimes that is enough reason to stay up later than you planned. Thank you for spending your time with me today. If you're still here, I'm truly grateful. Different stories, different opinions, same respect. If this one gave you a good time, a like helps more than you think, and you're always welcome to subscribe and stay for the next one. Take care of yourself, stretch, drink some water, rest your eyes. If this story resonates with you, check out my other documentaries and reviews on screen now. Until the next story, see you soon.